50% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. Fact. Not because they're lacking effort or even bad products. They fail because they can't explain their why or why they exist in a clear, consistent, and compelling way. If your message doesn't move people, your marketing never will. I promise you that. We are living in a crowded marketplace where customers can smell bullshit faster than you could throw ad dollars at it. The brands that win aren't the loudest, they're the clearest. And not because they didn't work hard, but because they were running in all the wrong directions. For too long, entrepreneurs and business owners have been told they have to choose between profit and purpose. If you're tired of burning out, done chasing someone else's version of success, and ready to grow with more purpose, prosperity, and peace of mind, you're in the right place. Because every business has the potential to do good and do well. I'm Chase Friedman, and this is In Pursuit of Purpose, where strategy meets soul. Founders pour years of their life and hundreds of thousands of dollars into tactics and tools and technology and talent. But most of the time, we're feeling this pressure, this ticking clock to start generating revenue as fast as possible. I get that. So we get caught up in doing all the things that we read about and we're told by the gurus who make it seem easy. If you just follow these tactics and frameworks, you're going to start generating growth. It doesn't work that way. What we're failing to understand is all the mistakes and missteps and ugly truths that these gurus had to experience before finding that formula for success, which, if we're being honest, it may work for them, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for you or for us. Each of us are running our own business in our own way. So we start the business and immediately dive into this obsession around results. We're focusing on the ends and not the means, like these shiny objects of success, without even stopping to truly understand our business or the customers we're trying to reach. We just assume if we build the funnels, the social media, the website, they'll come, right? We're off to the races and we're already burning through time and money. And entrepreneurs and business owners have skipped the most important foundational step that would have made every other move and investment you make more efficient and more effective. I have seen this time and time again. Getting crystal clear on who you are, why you exist, and how you actually help transform people's lives. So I see this every day. People come to me or the agency and they want results, just immediate results. What are your goals? Can you fix my funnel? Can you help us rank on Google? Can you make my content go viral? Their goals are the ends without really building the means or without really getting clear of who they are, who they're trying to target, how they're trying to serve. So when I ask, well, why do you exist? Or what do you stand for? There's usually silence. They're waiting for the data to tell them who they are instead of deciding it for themselves and leading. Because if the truth is, if you don't define your purpose, your competitors will. And when they do that, they will own the narrative. So this is not just strategic, this is psychological. You need to be extremely clear on what you are trying to do and who you're trying to reach in the marketplace so that when you do run the ads and the funnel and the social media, you're speaking directly to them, not just a broad message that doesn't connect with anyone. When you're clear on your why and your how and your what, you're not just kind of building a business, you're building a brand. You're building this not just for your clients and your tribe, but more importantly for yourself and your team, right? This gives you incredible clarity and confidence and conviction on where we're going and why it matters. Think about, have you ever woken up and asked yourself, why am I going to work today? I don't even love what I'm doing. What am I selling and why? How is it going to make a difference in the world? You know, we're searching for that meaning in our lives and in our work and our business. And as we should, right? We want to be motivated and inspired to get up and go to work every day. But unless we have that clear, defined, definite major purpose, it is really hard. And it's a kind of a floating, moving target. Waking up every day with this kind of clarity can create momentum. And momentum will create energy and activation and money. And actually at the end, if you stick through this whole episode, you're going to win a little prize. No, I'm just kidding. I've got something that's going to help you hopefully put this into practice. So I developed this resource called Post with Purpose. It's not just defining purpose on a blueprint or a mission statement. This is something that can actually be leveraged to help you create an entire content marketing strategy, right? This is like a simple workbook that helps you turn your why, your how, your what into your entire content strategy and content calendar in a simple, clean, and easy format. Right? A lot of people are constantly struggling. What do I talk about? And what do I share on social media? And what topics? Ground it, connect it, all back to those singular what, how, and why statements, right? But more on that later. So let's shift this thinking for a moment. Confusion costs more than clarity. Most founders don't fail because they lack passion. They fail because they're lacking alignment and focus. They're going a million different directions and spinning all these different plates. There's no plan. So many founders I see and I speak with, they're building without a blueprint or a roadmap, whatever you want to call it, or sometimes even a business plan. We wouldn't do that if we were building a home. You have a blueprint, you build a foundation first and then the scaffolding. You wouldn't build anything worth its weight in gold or anything worthwhile without an actual plan and a process in mind. So why would we do this with our own businesses? Why would we just start and spend years and time and resources and investments and money without a clear and definable blueprint for where we're going and how we're going to get there? So why do we do this? I don't know. I mean, impatience. We want to get going and start making money. Competitive spirit. We got to catch up to the competition. We feel like we're lagging behind. Is it anxiety? There's a variety of different reasons, emotionally, psychologically, tangibly, of why we would skip these core steps to just go and start making money and worry about that foundational brand identity and blueprint later. But I promise you, I have seen this time and time again. You can go to market launching all the ads with all the spend and all of the content you want, but your consumers and your clients will call bullshit because they can clearly see that there is not a clear and consistent and cohesive message or even a more compelling reason for why they should listen and buy from you. So first, let's look at some of the symptoms of some of these companies and these founders and even employees when there isn't a clear business or brand identity and roadmap to follow. If we're not all on the same page and rowing in the same direction, it's chaos. Like in football, we run plays off of a singular playbook or play that we have run and practiced time and time and time and time again. We got to be in that mentality for building our business. So here's just kind of a few statistics that are showing the symptoms of not having that brand alignment. So Harvard Business Review did this study that found that only 2 in 10 employees feel a strong connection between their daily work and their company's purpose. So that's 8 out of 10 people that are showing up, they're clocking in, and they're emotionally checking out. We've heard of quiet quitting or a variety of these different sort of, great resignation. So people are going to work every day without understanding a bigger purpose or a bigger meaning of what they're doing or what this company is for. Can you imagine trying to motivate yourself to do good work, to do your best work, to not just do the job, but to go above and beyond? Not going to happen if there's not a greater purpose than just show up and do the job. And we are seeing not just my generation and millennials and Gen Z, people are passing up higher paychecks for jobs that align with a deeper purpose in their lives, right? We're going to want to work for companies that fill us up versus just deplete us and drain us. Another study Gallup did is estimating that this disengagement, this checking out of the workforce, is costing US businesses like $2 trillion annually in lost productivity. $2 trillion. Right? It's probably even more at this point. But think about what that's costing you in terms of employee recruitment and retention and churn. You can't afford not to lean in and have a clear and defining and inspiring purpose for yourself, for your company, for your employees, right? You are losing trillions of dollars because people just straight up don't care. They're not invested in what they're doing and they're not invested in the company. So if you're not going to do it for the reason of needing a greater purpose in business, at least do it for the case of trying to do right by your employees and keep the best and brightest minds with you. Another study through Edelman, it's like a trust barometer, reports that 81% of consumers say they must trust a brand to buy from it. So we've seen this with a lot of brands recently that are doing sort of these shady, sort of trend-based marketing tactics just to try to sort of growth hack and capture customer market share. But again, and I'm dropping a lot of B-bombs on this one, like customers are going to call bullshit on that. If they're not seeing authenticity and consistency from this brand in leading with these values across everything they do, not just a social media post, people are going to check out. But again, businesses are still trying to lead with features and not values. Sometimes they'll even do a race to the bottom, trying to chase the lowest price. You're missing the boat. There is only so few that can lead on best price or best product or best features. So how else are you going to differentiate yourself in the marketplace? I've talked about this before, purpose positioning. How are you going to differentiate yourself in the marketplace? How are you going to get your customers to not just transactionally buy from you one time and then never again, but be an ambassador of the brand, believe in something more, support the product, support the brand. There's another great study from Accenture. It's this global consumer pulse that showed 62% of customers want brands to take a stand on issues that they care about. And when they do, these customers are more likely to buy again. So as I just mentioned, it's not enough to just kind of talk the talk. You got to be willing to commit time and energy and resources to making good on this purpose, making good on this commitment of your values, walking the talk. And when you do, and you might not see it immediately, and I see brands do this and have this knee-jerk reaction, oh, it didn't work. If you stay the course, this is more of a longitudinal effort, it will undeniably, and the data is there, prove to create greater brand trust, brand loyalty, margin, market share. But you got to commit, you got to do it consistently. And you can't do that unless you have that core why, how, and what of your business in place. All right. It can't be a moving target. Last one. So in 2023, PwC did a study. This is PricewaterhouseCoopers, right? This is not like a back alley data analyst. So PwC did an analysis on purpose-driven companies and determined that they were proven to outperform the market or the competitors by over 400% in a 10-year period. Take it for what it's worth. Purpose can help give you clarity and confidence and conviction, but guess what? It is also undeniably proven to do good and do well for your business. So I keep coming back to this. If you think purpose is fluff, right? Look at your profit margin. Confusion is going to cost you customers way more than having that singular clarity, because clarity gives you more than just strategy. It gives you energy for your employees, for yourself, for showing up to work every day and trying to do the best thing for your team and your customers. When shit gets tough running a business, and it will, what's keeping you motivated? What's keeping you going? Having this singular clarity is going to give you the energy to keep going. It's like that dopamine hit when the launch fades, right? So it's going to give your team meaning beyond just, metrics and sales. It's going to give your customers something more than the product they're buying. They're giving them emotional investment and meaning. All of these things are going to continue to give you momentum when market hits a turn. There's another competitor in the market. You had a down quarter. This is going to keep you sustaining and growing consistently versus riding that roller coaster. So by this point, you've either identified, is this a real priority for me and my company, or maybe not? Either way, I'm going to share with you some considerations and frameworks that are going to help you find that clarity. At least the least you can do is ask these questions of yourself. And if you have conviction and certainty around them, amazing. And if not, dig a little deeper. But once you clarify this, try to measure everything you do against these core truths, right? Your content, your marketing, your brand, your communications, your storytelling. So let's break it down, right? And we've heard this before. This is very much golden circle, Simon Sinek, why, how, and what of your business. So the first beat, we're going to talk about why, and you got to start with this. This is core, and we know this, golden circle. Why, your reason to exist, why you exist in the marketplace beyond the bottom line. Why is your belief statement? That is the kind of the most core internal truth, the deeper cause behind everything you do. And if you just end with just to make money, well, you might want to think of something a little bit more than just that. We've talked about how people buy on emotion. People want to work for values-driven companies. So if that doesn't tell you that you have to go a little bit deeper than just profit margin, well, this is a wake-up call, right? So why is your belief statement? It is what you believe and what you stand for. It is like the story behind the sale. And this is where a lot of founders blow it. They confuse like motivation and meaning. So helping people, doing good, making an impact, like those are general platitudes. Those aren't really whys, and they're certainly not specific to your business. Those are like wallpaper, right? So go a step further and try to personalize it as much as you possibly can for yourself, for your business. Your why has to be specific enough to attract believers who may share the same belief, the same values, and are willing to forget the rest of the competitors and go with you and your product and your service and your brand because you've given them something more to believe in. So for example, there's this really cool denim company in Wales. Their why is bringing manufacturing back to our town. So I love that. They're a denim company, but they've got a greater purpose. And this is like called creating shared value. So by investing in their community and in their company, it is kind of rising the collective tide. Yes, I'm sure they're selling, great denim. I don't have it. But imagine this tribe, this groundswell of their community wanting to support a local business that is giving back, right? You've got brand loyalty and brand ambassadors baked into that. They've actually become like this cult denim brand worn by celebrities and CEOs alike. So it doesn't just stop at your community, their community, but people around the world that may not even live there or know of the brand want to attach themselves to something with a bigger cause and a bigger meaning. If I'm going out and buying brands that I know one was made in, overseas in a sweatshop or questionable business practices versus one that is supporting the local community, I'm going to go with number two, right? Maybe not everyone buys on that same parameters, but again, people that are looking for something deeper than just a transaction of the next pair of jeans, you've given them something to believe in. Another great example is Death Wish Coffee, which is just a great name and great branding. It's kind of like Liquid Death, right? Their why, fuel people's rebellion against mediocrity. So that's a very rebel mindset, very much like Apple, right? Don't accept the status quo and mediocrity. So they're selling coffee, caffeine, but what they're really selling is like belief and conviction in yourself. You deserve something more than mediocrity. Does it align perfectly with coffee? No, not necessarily. But they're doing a variety of different things within their community, within Give Back, that are helping elevate people's needs and standards in their own life, right? Through education, through engagement. Make it personal, make it specific. Do not just stop at a general platitude of saving the world. So your why is like that emotional engine. In this case, with Death Wish, they want to set a higher standard for themselves, their industry, their customers, their own expectation for themselves and their lives, right? So cool, you get some really great coffee, and even in the back of your mind and your subconscious, you're like, you know what? This is the lifestyle and the identity that I subscribe to, and I want to support and do business with brands that have the same shared values. So the second beat after we've asked our why, right, is how. Now, this is how you're going to make good on that why, right? This is how you are differentiating yourself in the market and setting yourself up to make good on that promise. It's your proof of belief. Your how is how you live out your purpose, okay? It could be your system, your standards, your expertise, your IP. Tony Chocolonely, awesome brand, right? Great chocolate. They don't just like preach ethics, and you can read it on their wrapper. They design their bars. Actually, I didn't even know this until I did some research. They design their bars unevenly to reflect inequality in cocoa farming, right? That's like a tiny Easter egg design choice that started like a little tiny, small startup niche boutique chocolate company into a $150 million company. They don't just print it on their label, sustainably farmed and fair trade and all of that. They're going a step further. They're looking at the design, and yes, of course, the sourcing and the give back that they stand behind. They are embedding it in every part of their product and identity. Take a look at Allbirds, right? They're tracking every gram of carbon in their supply chain. So they could easily just say, hey, we're more sustainable and more using renewable resources, but they're actually tracking it. And we've talked about measuring impact, right? This is key. They are doing that. They are investing in themselves to not just kind of make that promise, but to walk the talk, to kind of have that proof and hold themselves accountable to that promise of being a more eco-friendly and eco-conscious brand. And that transparency is their marketing, right? People know that. So again, just to kind of clarify, your how is how you are going to earn that trust. Trust is a valuable currency in business and branding. So consider this question, ask yourself this question. If somebody shadowed your company for a day, shadowed you for a day, didn't know anything about you prior to, what would they see? Would they be able to recite or comprehend your values, or would they have to go look it up on your website? How you perform each and every day in your product and your positioning and your content and your storytelling, your values, how is that showing up for people in the world without you having to preach and tell them that? As I've said before, your brand is not just a website or a logo. Your brand is the perception of your business from the world at large. Final ingredient. We've answered our why, what we believe. We've answered our how are we unique and different and making good on that promise. And then finally, the what. That's like the final bottom of the funnel, the manifestation, the goods, the product, the services that we actually deliver or offer or provide to create that greater transformation. Your what is your product or your service, but it's also kind of the story that you're telling. Again, Liquid Death, amazing. Didn't invent water or water in a bottle, or I don't even think of water in a can. They reinvented the identity behind it, right? Rebellion, humor, anti-corporate, rebel mindset. They've got a $700 million valuation and they're selling water. Bombas, sock company, right? Commodity. We all buy socks. They turned it into a cause, a give back program. Their actual product is, again, making good and reinforcing that why every single time somebody purchases, right? They are reminded of that bigger picture, of that greater meaning, of that belief, and why this sock or a water or a chocolate bar is unique and different. When your what and your how and your why are aligned, you do not have to work harder on your marketing. That message will resonate far greater than any performance marketing you can do. But if you don't have that clear and consistent across every touch point of your brand, it's going to fall flat. So here's a quick example of someone I've worked with. It's kind of the alignment effect. A founder came to me last year. They were burnt out. They had been building this company for years. They kind of just lost sight of why they were doing it, why it mattered. They wanted to exit, but they weren't quite sure if that was the right course for them. They had a great offer. They had a great team. They just weren't getting any traction. They had plateaued. They had hired a ton of different agencies. They burned ad dollars, and they just weren't growing, right? They were looking at the ends and not the means. When we sat down, I asked them the question, so why do you exist, right? What do you stand for as a brand? And it was just silence. It was like, okay, thinking, what's going to sound good? They weren't clear on it, right? And even if they were, the fact that they had to think that long to try to come up with it, it was missing. So we mapped out, very simply, their why, their how, and their what. Their why is they helped founders tell stories that move people. Their how was through cinematic podcasting, strategic coaching. Once we helped them get clear on their message, in 6 months, their inbound leads doubled, their close rates jumped 40%, their entire team felt inspired. We brought them to the table. This wasn't just done by one person. We brought all the stakeholders in to do it together. They felt reinvigorated and energized and motivated. But it made not an immediate in terms of 1 week, 1 month, but over months made an incredible exponential jump in their sales and their profitability and their revenue, where it was stagnant for years prior. The one thing to keep in mind, keep this simple, keep it tight, keep it clear. Confusion is going to kill your conversion. If people have to stop and unpack and try to decipher and discern what you actually mean, you're too complicated. When you're aligned, you're not just growing this business, like you're building belief for your customers and for your team and for yourself. Here's one more thing you can do to kind of check on this sort of alignment, this alignment audit. 5 minutes, clarity check. Write down your why and your how and your what in one sentence each, no more, right? And if you can't, there's your problem right there. Start by going back and clarifying it in one sentence. You don't have to start there. Write a paragraph if you need to, but be brutal, kill your darlings. Get it down to one singular sentence. Say it out loud to yourself, have your team say it, stress test it with your customers, with your clients, with your family, with your wife, your husband. Test it, right? Does this feel right? Does this feel authentic? Does this resonate? Identify every single place in your brand and your marketing where this can be integrated, right? Every pitch, every meeting, every resource. And again, back to this post with purpose framework, that's going to help you do that. Really create a clear connection of your why, your how, and your what to the actual content you're putting out there in the world, right? You'll see how easy it is, how it just helps inspire and tether different content formats inspired by those core truths. So stress test it, right? Ask somebody you care about. Would they care if this business disappeared tomorrow? Ask your employees. What do you love most about this business? What do you feel most inspired by? Or what's the most important work we do? If there's any hesitation or there's uncertainty there, again, have that conversation, dig a little deeper, and make sure that you are crafting something that inspires you, but inspires others along the way. If you are if you're continually stuck chasing the next tactic or feature or marketing tool or technology, stop and ask yourself, do I have my core truth, my foundation in place before I move forward, before I spend another dollar on this? The secret to growth is not just more tactics. It's more truth and clarity in where you're going and how you'll get there. So lean in and discover or rediscover your why, right? Define or redefine your how, and then rebuild your products and your services around that. You're not suffering from a lack of demand. You're just suffering from a lack of connection and clarity with people, right? So get clear, get aligned, grow with this sort of purpose in mind. All right, so I promised you if you listen to the end, I'm gonna help you put this into action, right? Well, first of all, if you wanna share it with me, send it to me, DM me, send it to me on LinkedIn, write a comment, and I will respond to it. I'd love to hear what you guys are coming up with. But in the meantime, there's a resource that we have on the website on vanquishmediagroup.com. Go to resources, go to ebook. I'll put a link in here as well. It's called the Post with Purpose Workbook, right? It is a simple, clear framework to build out your entire content marketing strategy with these 3 simple truths: your why, your how, and your what. I've done this for clients over and over and over, and it used to be far more complicated. And then I just got real simple and real strategic. It all boils down to these 3 things. It'll inspire you to not just do better work, but to do more of it. So thanks for listening. If you have any questions, let me know, reach out. I'd love to hear what you guys are coming up with and your own why, how, and what statements. And more importantly, how you are putting it into action in your business. All right. Stay tuned. Great hanging out with you. I'll see you next time. I appreciate you tuning in today. I hope this brought you a bit of confidence, clarity, and conviction on your business journey. If something here resonated, do me a favor, leave a quick review or share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. It goes a long way in helping more people find the show and start their own journey. And as always, you'll find all the resources and ways to connect with me in the show notes. Now, go take that next step in building the business you've been dreaming of. Wishing you continued purpose, prosperity, and peace of mind.